I am Liam Frost, President of the United Irish Societies of San Francisco, and we are sponsoring this event along with the Irish Marvels, past and present, as well as the California Retired Teachers Association. And sponsoring it means we write the check, but the person doing all the work is the committee. And they've done a great job putting this on to honor Kate Kennedy, who without her, the teachers in the state of California and probably the United States wouldn't have the benefits that they have right now. And I would like to again thank Pati, our local librarian and historian, for taking the time and the effort to put this together, along with her committee of Lisa Hilmoe, Phyllis Abad, Valerie McGrew, Caitie O'Shea, Nancy Sanchez. And I also would like to thank our bagpiper, Craig Farley, and the Irish Piper Band of San Francisco that shows up for every event that we have. And then Kathy Lynch, she brought out the speaker instead for her husband, our Vice President, John Lynch, but we all made John the Vice President because we know how hard Kathy works. But I do want to check, can everybody hear me? Because I know I didn't need the speaker, but I appreciate that that she brought it out here. I do want to thank Robert ODriscoll, our Consul General, for coming out. He'll be addressing you in a little while. But that's as far as I go with speeches. I come to these things because I'm lucky enough to be involved in the United Irish Societies in San Francisco, and everybody else does the work. And the committee did a great job putting this on. So I welcome and thank you for all coming out here. And once again, thank you to Pati and the committee. Now I'd like to introduce Pati, who will MC this remembrance. Pati.
Hello, hello, and can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Great. I also would like to thank you for coming. I think this is our 4th annual commemoration of Kate Kennedy's life, and we're looking forward to many, many more. She's a person well worth celebrating, not only for her contributions to teachers of California, San Francisco in general, but also a reflection on the Irish experience in America. What I would like to do, which seemed appropriate, is to just read to you her obituary from the Examiner. This is from the San Francisco Examiner. You'll have to pardon me, I'm a librarian, so I'm going to cite sources. San Francisco Examiner, 19th of March, 1890. Death of the San Francisco school teacher in Oakland. Miss Kate Kennedy, long and favorably identified with the San Francisco Public Schools, died early last night in Oakland at the residence of J.M. Cushing, 1669 13th Street. Probably no other teacher in the schools of California served continuously for so long a period as did Miss Kennedy. She was a native of Ireland and came to this city in 1856. She was virtually a California pioneer and witnessed with pride the growth of her adopted city and her adopted state and the public school system. With the latter, her name will long be associated by both the young and more elderly men and women living here who received their instruction from her in the years that have gone. Miss Kennedy was a self-educated woman, possessing a thorough mastery of all she undertook to teach. She was a practical woman, and as a teacher, her efforts met with success. She entertained strict ideas as to discipline, but was kind and sympathetic to such an extent to win the esteem and confidence of associate teachers as well as scholars. It is an interesting reminiscence to call to mind that the first school she taught in on arriving here was in a frame house that stood close to the present site of the Palace Hotel. Back from it to the south rose a high hill of sand over and around which many of her young scholars, who are now men and women in active life, they used to daily walk to the little schoolhouse. And I think that might be referring to what we call Irish Hill, down by the mission. The last position she held in the schools was as principal of the North Cosmopolitan Grammar School. In the latter part of 1886, she was granted a leave of absence from the position, which led to a lawsuit of some importance that was recently decided in her favor. When she returned from her leave of absence to resume her duties at the North Cosmopolitan School, she found that another teacher had been put in her place and another position of a lower grade assigned to her. In the litigation that followed to get her old position back, the California Supreme Court laid down the important legal principle that a teacher of any particular grade and with a proper certificate could not be placed in a lower grade or dismissed except for misconduct or incompetency. Miss Kennedy never sought reinstatement in the schools after winning the litigation in question, and the arrangement for the funeral has not yet been announced. I have a feeling that the newspaper wrote this, whether it was the tradition for families to take out obituaries at that time, I rather doubt, but it gives you an impression of the way she was viewed in public life by a very public resource. And I would, at this time, like to correct Liam in that I drew the short straw and it was assigned to be the moderator today. Lisa Hilmoe is really the person who has spearheaded these efforts. We began with a presentation by Joe Coffey, who is also in attendance today, who did marvelous research on this woman that many of us had never heard of before and should have. And I also like to thank the rest of the Irish Marvels. If you're interested in joining our group, we meet once a month at the center in good times, on Zoom in bad times, and we're a delightful group, so approach me afterwards and we'll give you more information, okay? And at this point, I would like to turn the podium over to Consul General Robert ODriscoll.
Chordia Ginushla, or ODriscoll Sam Thomas Michelle Consul here on show San Francisco is to Anahos. There's some broader on the on show, and you live. My name's Robert ODriscoll. I'm Ireland's Consul General. This is my fourth Kay Kennedy Day, third, because last year, of course, we didn't meet in person. And I was going to say how great it is to see everybody again here today. There's a real sense of optimism, of things coming back, of in-person events, and I got a hug from Valerie McGrew today. So, you know, all of my Christmases have come at once. So thank you so much. Look, I mean, I think I want to thank the Irish Societies and the Irish Marvels, the fantastically named Irish Marvels, past and present, for inviting me to be here today. And like, I'm going to be really, really quick, but there's maybe three things I want to reflect on a little bit while we're here today. And the first one is that during St. Patrick's Day, as you all know, the Irish Taoiseach gets to meet with the President and the Vice President of America, and also the Speaker of the House. It's a huge honour, which we take very, very seriously. And this year, Taoiseach Micheál Martin met virtually, not in person unfortunately, but met virtually with the California Vice President of America, Kamala Harris. And when he met with her, he spoke about the enormous Irish tradition in California and the contribution of Irish immigrants to this wonderful and very special state. And he specifically mentioned Kay Kennedy. He specifically mentioned Kay Kennedy as an Irish woman who had come here, had broken through all the barriers, everyone took it to put her mind to, and achieved so much, and had shown the way in the Golden State, and he said, you know, obviously the Vice President has broken her own barriers as well in achieving the highest office in the land ever to be held by a woman. Of course, it will be a California woman who would get to that level. But did you want to make sure that she was aware that she was following a tradition of women in California, and particularly an Irish woman in California who was willing to break those barriers. I thought it was very, very special that he would say that. But I think also it speaks to the fact that, you know, as we look back on our history, we realise sometimes that there's a difference between our history and the past. And very often, unfortunately, over the last, you know, couple of hundred years, and specifically related to Irish history, a lot of our Irish history has been focused on those big male figures who've achieved great things. Whereas the past, when we look at it objectively, you actually realise all these other people who we hadn't realised who made these enormous contributions. And I think that by the Taoiseach speaking to Vice President Harris that day, he was raising awareness and bringing attention to a historical figure of significance who we probably didn't celebrate enough over the last 100 or so years, but who we are doing our damnedest to celebrate and remember as appropriate here today. So I'm very proud of that, and more of that. And just in that kind of context, the Irish Consul that we're sponsoring a lecture in the autumn on the role of the Irish women in the War of Independence as part of the Farther Shore series of lectures, because we feel that these hidden histories that shouldn't be hidden, we want more to be done to raise awareness of those. So I hope you'll all be able to, that'll be on Zoom, I hope you'll be able to join us for that. Second thing about Kennedy is, you know, the more you read about her, the more I read about her, the more I realise her relevance to today. You know, the kind of values that she stood for, decency, fairness, equality, opportunity. These are battles which are fought again and again and again, and they are values that are as relevant today to fight for as they were 120 years ago when she was here in California. So I hope that, you know, as we reflect on Kay Kennedy today and we remember her the person, I think it's important that we really focus on who she was, what she stood for, and how she would take those values if she was talking to us today about the challenges that we're all facing. Because in the course of the pandemic, I mean, it was striking to me that, you know, the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on working women here in the US and in Ireland. And I suspect she would have had an awful lot to say about that, and an awful lot to say about our societies and how we can improve them. So that's something we need to think about, I think, as we go forward. And I want to put down a challenge here today. Like, the Consul would love to work with you on these things. We'd love to figure out how can we bring her historical thought into the contemporary. And this time next year, I'd love if we could have some sort of a program to inspire younger people to reflect on Kennedy, to think about her values, and to really articulate those in a modern context. So let's see if we can get that done. This is my last year in San Francisco, so let's see if we can get that as a big deliverable for the year ahead of us. The last thing I want to say is that, of course, it is in no way surprising that a woman like Kay Kennedy, an Irish woman, achieved so much and was such a leader within this state. Because if you look around our community today, if you look at our community organisations, invariably they are women-led. A lot of the senior positions across our communities, the provision of welfare, celebration of Irish culture, are led by women. And maybe it's a Western US thing, I don't know, but all across the West we see that. So today I think is a moment of celebration for those women leaders. And we do that at St. Bridget's Day, but I think Kay Kennedy Day is a very special day here in San Francisco to be doing it. And I hope this evening when we'll go off to Wona and raise a glass of, or a cup of tea or coffee, to maybe reflect and remember all those leaders, because they are the backbone of our community, and they make sure that the organisations have endured through these difficult times and will continue to do so and continue to thrive in the years ahead. So be Malagwiv, enjoy the day, and thanks very much for having me.
Thank you, Consul General. And next we'd like to hear from Susie Scurich. She is the current president of the San Francisco, California Retired Teachers Association. So she'll be speaking about Kate from the angle of education, a topic that obviously was very close to her heart. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. I'll use my teacher outdoor voice. Hi, I'm Susie Scurich, president of the San Francisco division of the Cal RTA, California Retired Teachers Association. Born and raised in San Francisco. I taught for 48 years in the San Francisco public schools. I retired 6 years ago, and I'm devoting my time and energy working for teachers' rights, workers' rights, and women's rights, along the same lines as Kate Kennedy did to promote public education and social justice. I don't think they used that term, social justice, back then. Anyway, Kate was born in 1827, died in 1890 at 63 years old. She was an Irish immigrant from County Meath, who came to the United States in the middle of the 19th century. She lived in California, where she became a teacher and principal in San Francisco. She is most known for her Equal Pay for Equal Work campaign in 1874, where she successfully lobbied the California legislature to support female teachers receiving the same pay as their male counterparts. This is why we are here today, to remember and honor her achievements which benefit us today. Kate left Ireland in 1849 during the Great Famine, which was from 1845 to 1849, along with a brother and sister. I wanted to mention 1849 because I have a very good friend and colleague, Etienne Simon, who couldn't be here today, but she has come to a couple of these events. Her family was also from County Meath, who left in the same year, 1849. I'll mention Etienne later, again later. After arriving in San Francisco, Kate pursued her teaching and administrative career, organized an Equal Pay for Equal Work campaign. The campaign focused on allowing more women into supervisory positions in public education, as well as elected offices, while paying them equally to men. Kennedy remained a prominent figure in public education. In 1886, Kennedy ran for California Superintendent of Public Instruction, the first woman in California to run for statewide office, although she did lose the election. But after her defeat, she was transferred to Ocean View School. I'm not sure if it's the same school that Patti mentioned. They demoted her and reduced her salary from $175 a month to $100 a month. 2 months into her new position, she was dismissed from the school for political reasons. Kate challenged her dismissal all the way to the Supreme Court of California. And she sued the school district for her position and back pay. citing the California Tenure Law of 1881. The Supreme Court of California ultimately sided with her in 1890, affirming that, and I'll read what Patty also said, a teacher of any particular grade and with proper certificate cannot be placed in a lower grade or dismissed except for misconduct or incompetency. The court also ruled that she must be reinstated to her position and be granted back pay of $5,700. Now, that was in 1890. She was a champion against arbitrary dismissal. She died soon after that in 1890 and was buried in Oakland. I was looking for a teacher who taught at Kate Kennedy School in San Francisco. It closed June 30th, 1989. My friend Etienne, that I mentioned before, taught there for about 4 years in the 1950s. She loved the staff and students, and I called Etienne and asked her for any stories that she could remember or if she knew people that taught there. Anyway, these are kind of just a couple of little silly teacher stories. The teachers laugh, but I don't know if it'd be funny for you. One story was, well, they had a favorite kindergarten teacher there named Hazel, who taught there a long time. She passed away, and someone asked where she's going to be buried. And our other teacher friend, Jack Campbell, said, why not over there by the flagpole? Anyway, everybody laughed at that. There at the school site. And one time, Etienne saw the retired principal, Amy Gish, shopping at West Portal, and Etienne asked how Amy is enjoying retirement. And Amy Gish, the former retired principal, said, there's more to life than checking on whether teachers are teaching spelling. That was her comment about retirement. And I'm still going to try to find someone who taught at Kate Kennedy School, maybe for next time. Let's keep Kate in our thoughts and be grateful for her perseverance and strength. We teachers and everybody today stand on her shoulders in our quest for equal protection. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie. Well, I think that concludes our program today. We're going to have one more song from Craig on the pipes, and you're all invited to come back to the United Irish Cultural Center to have no host food and drink at Wawona Gates. That's in the parking lot behind the building, and there will be music I think a little later today, so a fun time, a nice way to end the commemoration of Kate Kennedy. I think she would appreciate it. So if Craig will pipe us out. Alrighty, well I hope to see you at the UICC.